Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, for braving the cold. I think it really feels like it's finally winter. As always, we want to give a huge thanks to our friends of the Beverly Public Library. Without them, these programs wouldn't be possible, as well as our refreshments, which I know everyone enjoyed. Though you may have noticed that there was some different fare than just our world famous donut holes that we usually have, that you've come to know and love. There was also some sample treats provided by our wonderful presenter, Tammy Donroe Inman.
Yay.
Got it out.
Yes.
Who's actually going to be speaking here today, talking about some of the work that they've done putting together their two cookbooks, New England Dessert and New England Brunch, which just came out in April, and you can actually see examples of those books in the back. And with that, I think we're ready to get started. So take it away, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you, Graham, for that introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you all for coming out this morning. I know it was chilly. And for me, this is like earlier than I usually do my presentation. So it's nice to see some bright, shining faces here this morning. So what I'd like to do is maybe talk for 20-25 minutes about one of my favorite topics, which is New England desserts. And then also talk a little bit about seasonal brunch as well, since that's the topic of my second cookbooks. Actually, these are my second and third cookbooks. My first one was Winter Sweet, but that came out 10 years ago and is out of print. So we're gonna focus on these two today. Then I'll open it up to questions after that. We usually have a very lively Q&A at the end of this. So get your questions ready for the end. And then if anybody's interested in buying books, I do have some for sale. They make great gifts, and I'd be happy to sign them for you. So let's start with a little, just a little background about me. I live in Waltham now, but I was born in Maine. I lived in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and I basically lived in New England my whole life. So maybe like you, the seasons are a very important part of our lives, our lifestyle, and the way that we eat. I got a culinary degree from the Cambridge School of Culinary Arts about 25 years ago, and I had the good luck to work in the Cook's Illustrated Test Kitchen. The first year that they started America's Test Kitchen. This was before they knew that it would take off, and I think it's maybe their 25th anniversary now. Yeah, it must be, because it was 2000 when I was working there. So they had no idea that it was going to turn out to be the hit that it was, and it was a really interesting time to be in that test kitchen. I've also worked for Boston Magazine as an editor. I freelanced for some of the food magazines. Yankee Magazine, I've written for the Boston Globe, so I really like to write about food, and especially like local food, regional delicacies, and like the benefits of eating locally and how that affects the economy and like your diet and just your quality of life. So you're going to see some pictures coming up here, and these are pictures from the book New England Desserts, and then at some point I'm going to switch it over to the brunch book, and you can see some pictures from that. All right, so before I get started, I wanted to ask you, although you have a cheat sheet right here, what do you think of when I say New England desserts? Like, what comes to mind for you?
Indian pudding.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else?
Molasses cookies.
Yep, 100%. Anything?
Pie.
Apple pie, yep, keep them coming.
Blueberries.
Yep, blueberry, what was the other? Apple crisp?
Apple crisp.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie, yep.
Nantucket pie.
Oh, that's a new one for me. What's Nantucket pie?
It's kind of like a sponge cake or like a butter cake when you make it with cranberries and walnuts.
Really? I'm going to have to update my cookbook. Thank you for that.
Grape nut custard.
Grape nut custard, yes. That's a great one. And I also have, I don't know if you saw the grape nut ice cream, but that popped up as well.
Bread pudding.
Bread pudding, yep. All right, so you guys are totally on the right track. Like those are like all of the important ones and some extra ones too. So let me talk to you a little bit about like my process for how I came up with this, because like New England desserts can really mean anything. I mean, Settlement started, on the East Coast, and so a lot of desserts just originated here. But what did I include in here? So the seasons. I made sure that I had all of the seasonal ingredients that we like to cook with in every season, and then there is a special chapter at the end that focuses on ice cream, because New Englanders will eat ice cream any time of year. And there are some ice creams that just don't fall into a season, like the classics, like coffee and chocolate and vanilla and such. So that's how I did that. They're organized by season so that when you go to the farmer's market, you know what you're gonna see, right? You're not gonna find strawberries. Well, sometimes actually you do find strawberries in the fall. So like usually you find them in the spring and summer, but some growers will actually cover their strawberry plants so that they ripen later. So that's why you'll see some local fall strawberries. I was very suspicious, like, these can't be local, and they explained what they did. I was like, really? Why doesn't everybody do that? Right, so kind of what the flow is in the farmer's market. So you'll see strawberries and rhubarb in the late spring, early summer. You'll see other berries in the height of summer: blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, black raspberries, melons, stone fruits like cherries, plums, peaches, and then you start some early apples. And then in the fall, of course, here we are: pumpkins, apples, cranberries, Concord grapes, a lot of nuts, pears, quince. And then in the fall, in the winter, there's not a lot coming out of the ground, obviously, but historically we've used, storage. Apples, pears will keep for a while, root vegetables, squashes, hard winter squashes will keep for a while, nuts, spices, molasses, chocolate, caramel, things like that. So then we get into holiday baking. And then, just eating locally, buying from your local growers just makes you that much better of a cook, because everything is fresher. Things are, one would imagine they're more nutritious because they are picked fresh. The growers tend to have a stake in the economy and in their environment, so they tend to have like more responsible growing practices. It's kind of the same for like fishermen. Their livelihood is dependent on the sea, so they tend to be a little bit more mindful of the environment than, say, corporations. So it's really great to support your local growers, keeps dollars in the economy, and everything tastes great. All right, so other things that I considered in putting together, a New England Desserts cookbook were the things that were 100% documented as originating here in New England. And not all things can be, definitely documented. A lot of things just evolve, and you don't know where they came from. But things like the chocolate chip cookies, we know that those were invented at the Toll House Inn in Whitman in 1938, and by Sue Brides was the cook for that. I'm trying to remember the woman's name who owned the place, but Ruth Graves Wakefield was the owner, and her cook Sue Brides came up with that recipe. In the past, people had always melted chocolate and put them in desserts because the chocolate was very bitter. It was not quite as sweet as it is today, and it was also not as smooth as it is today. So it was usually melted and added to cakes and things like that. But for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have enough chocolate to make something, they chopped it up, added it, and the rest is history. So for sure, chocolate chip cookies are a New England ingredient, or a New England dessert. Then there are, so even though we eat chocolate chip cookies all over the United States, we know that it's a New England dessert originally. But I also wanted to search out regional specialties that maybe we don't know about, that we want to, just share within the New England area. For example, that cookie that we just saw, that is a Joe Frogger cookie. This is my cheat sheet for dates because I have never been good at remembering dates. Does anybody has anybody heard of a Joe Frogger cookie? Yeah, okay, so you guys are living in the right area for it. Sometimes when I'm in the South Shore, they have no idea. So if you don't know, Joe Frogger, it's a giant gingerbread cookie that's spiked with molasses, and it has a history in the North Shore. with Black Joe's Tavern in Marblehead. And the story is just so fascinating. So Joe Brown, he was half black, half Wampanoag. He was a slave that worked in Rhode Island. And he gained his freedom by serving out his master's son's enlistment in the Revolutionary War. There's actually paperwork, there's actually a receipt, I think that Smithsonian has online that you can see. So when he got his freedom, he went up to the North Shore and he started a bar with his wife, Lucretia, who people called Aunt Crease. He tended bar and she would make these cookies with rum, big pour from the bar. The lore has it that she used salt water from the ocean to give it some saltiness, and then spices were, this was in the 1800s, so there was a lot of spice trade happening in Salem and around here, so access to nutmeg and cinnamon and all the cloves and ginger and all those spices. And the people loved these cookies, not just because they were delicious, but they didn't go stale because of the alcohol. And they also were really easy on the stomach because of the ginger. So the sailors would bring them on the ships and it would help prevent seasickness. So those very popular cookie, very delicious, still holds up today. A lot of the old Yankee cooking, you're like, but some of it is delicious and it still holds up today, and this is one of those things. She was supposedly made these in a giant cast iron skillet so that they were as big as the lily pads in the pond, which is why they were called Joe Froggers. So that's why I photographed it actually in a little cast iron pan, but I do not recommend that you do them individually in a cast iron pan because it will take you forever. They do work on a cookie sheet and they are very, very good. So that's one example of something that, I thought everybody should know about this recipe. There's also, you may see a soft serve ice cream photograph that is a Vermont maple creamy. If you've never heard of that, it's just a soft serve ice cream made with maple sugar and maple syrup. It's sort of a high-fat, delicious ice cream from the Montpelier region. It's very tasty. We were just there with my older son doing a falconing trip just for him to get to hold the bird, and we had some maple creamies there. They were very delicious. And then another one that is interesting that you might not know about, or maybe you do, from Maine is the Maine potato candy. Has anybody heard of that? Yes, Needham's, excellent. So potato candy, my kids were like, no. I was like, no, they taste really good. They taste like a Mounds Bar or Almond Joy without the almonds. They're made with, yes, mashed potato, but it's just like there to bind together the filling, which is a coconut filling. It's like you would use cornstarch or flour. It's just potato starch. And the reason that they used potatoes is because that's one of the top crops of Maine, always trying to use and support the local economy. And it turned out that it was delicious. So it's a coconut cream candy and it's covered in dark chocolate. And it's always cut in a square. So that's something, my kids ate every single one of them, and they were delicious. And the other name for them is Needham. They were named after a preacher. But I can't help but think that name is the perfect marketing name for anything delicious because you need them. You need them. All right, some other things I definitely kept in mind were native ingredients, ingredients that were native to the land here when the Algonquins were, the Native Americans occupying the land here, and then ingredients that were brought here by settlers. And so there's definitely a change, right, when the settlers got here. And then, of course, other immigration happened, and that also changed some of the cooking ideas and flavors. So I wanted to include sort of all of those things. And sort of make sure, for me, food history is important, and it always tells the story of the people. What we're eating, it tells a lot about the people that are in our community. So you'll see a lot of cornmeal in Native American dishes, or I should say New England dishes because of the Native Americans. Ground corn was the main carbohydrate here before the settlers came. And so corn was a really important part of the Algonquin diet. Popcorn, sweet corn and ground corn that was made into things like, a porridge that they would eat in the mornings called the samp, and which is kind of the basis for Indian pudding. Maple syrup was the main sweetener. There was no honey here. The honeybees came from Europe. There were dried fruits that could be used as a sweetener, but really maple syrup was the main sweetener. And the Native Americans didn't really have dessert as a course, but during maple sugaring season, which is at the end of the winter, in like February, March, when the nights are still cold but the days are warming up, that's when they would tap the trees, same as we do today, collect the syrup, boil it down. It takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. So that's why it costs so much, because it takes a lot of material and then some effort to boil it down and get that syrup. And so the Native Americans would, save it, same as we do over the course of the year, but during the actual gathering of the syrup, they would have a little extra, use it for, special things such as maple syrup, or maple sugar on snow. Everybody, I see some yeses. If you don't know what maple sugar on snow is, it's a candy. It's basically a taffy made with maple sugar. And what you would do is you'd have the snow, and you make a little trench, or just a little line in the snow. You'd cook the maple syrup down a little bit more than normal, just enough that it's going to congeal when it hits the cold snow. And then you roll it up on a stick, and you end up with like a little lollipop of soft maple flavored candy, and it's delicious. My kids and I did this one winter, and it was a fun little activity. And then pumpkins and squash were a very important crop that the Native Americans grew, and the basis of our pumpkin pie. Not to mention all the berries that grow here, naturally. Blueberries, cranberries, there were wild strawberries, black raspberries. That's why you see a lot of those flavors on ice cream boards, because those were like the original fruits that were here, and so they made delicious ice cream. It's still delicious today. Then when the British arrived, they brought, apples. A lot of people think of apples as like the quintessential New England ingredient, and they are. But they were not native here. They were brought here by the British. They were brought here as cuttings from their apple trees they had in their cottage gardens. Same with pears, same with quince, and same with rhubarb. So a lot of those are beloved fruits that we love to cook from, and we have the British to thank for bringing those. We do have some native, well, I say native, that's not the right word. We have some heirloom apple varieties that grow in New England all over as a result of, crossbreeding, wild pollination happening. And so a lot of the varieties that they brought here turned into, with pollination and crossbreeding, different varieties. Most of them were sour, and so those were used for cider, but some of them were really sweet, and those are some of our favorite apple varieties that you might see more often at like a local apple orchard than you would at the grocery store. So something like a Roxbury russet, which is like a parchment paper colored apple, kind of a golden apple, that was found in Roxbury in 1635. That's considered to be one of the first heirlooms. But there's a whole bunch of them all over New England. There's like Westfield, seek no further. There's Hubbardston, Nonesuch. They have all these really cute names that I love. And you should totally seek them out, because some of them are really crispy and tart. Some of them make amazing applesauce. Some of them make amazing pies. Just something a little different. We see a lot more apples in the grocery store than we used to. When I was growing up, it was like you would have Macintosh, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, Granny Smith. I might be missing one more, maybe Cortland's. Now we have a lot of different hybrids, like Fuji and Gala. I think Gala is one, but there are some older ones that are traditional and equally delicious, and I would encourage you to seek those out. Probably you have. I expect a lot of you do apple picking. My talks tend to attract a certain type of person. Another thing that the British brought was wheat. So there was no wheat growing here. Like I said, corn was the main carb. They also brought oats and barley, a lot of cereal type grains that were used, rye. And a lot of times they would make things called thirded breads that had a combination of different grains. So like a third cornmeal, a third wheat, a third rye, because they didn't have quite enough wheat to make a full loaf of bread. Wheat didn't grow really well here, so they did try, but it didn't really thrive the way apples did. Our pumpkin pie originated not as an actual pie with a crust, because there wasn't wheat here. But once they were able to start shipping the wheat and start growing the wheat, then the crust was added. Probably the first pumpkin pie was served in either a hollowed out pumpkin shell or some other cooking vessel. And of course the British brought their cooking techniques. So pies, like their meat pies, are sort of the basis for our fruit pies. Really thick with fruit. Most European fruit pies are tarts, they're thin, but the British pies are thick, and I love American fruit pies. Puddings, a lot of puddings. So like Indian pudding was like a mishmash of Native American ingredients and British cooking techniques, because they put the eggs in there. Usually, it would either be for a sweetener, maple syrup originally, and then eventually molasses, which was cheaper because of the sugar trade and the fact that the labor was unpaid. Muffins were basically small cakes or small puddings. Crumpets turned into English muffins here. We renamed them. Yorkshire puddings became popovers here. So a lot of the British techniques carried over. They just, with the independence of the colonists, they renamed things and made them their own. And then other immigrant groups, French Canadians, a lot of French Canadians here, a lot of French influence. So frappes, that is a French influence. Just whipping your ice cream into a shake. I think frappe in French means, what is it? Who speaks French here? It means something like whip it or stir it around really fast. I can't remember what the word was, but it has a direct translation. French toast, obviously, quiche, and hash. Hash comes from the word haché, which means to chop finely. And things like red flannel hash were really important to outdoorsmen, like trappers, hunters, people who would be out camping for long periods of time. They would make something filling with storage foods that would keep. So potatoes, root vegetables, beets, that's your red flannel hash. German immigrants, which are the same as Pennsylvania Dutch, come from the southern, they're not from the Netherlands, they're from the southern part of Germany. We think that whoopie pies are probably originated from the Germans. Whoopie pies are claimed by multiple locations, people in Maine, people in Massachusetts, and people in Amish country. And it's most likely that they all originated from German immigrants. They just have different names in different places. In Pennsylvania, they're called gobs, after coal, because it's coal mining country. Whoopie pies, I'm getting ahead of myself. Whoopie pies got their name actually from, this one is documented, it's kind of funny because we don't always know where the names come from. But there was a bakery called Berwick Cake Company in Roxbury, and they were making these sandwich cakes that we know as whoopie pies, and they weren't selling for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't sell, but they weren't making a splash. So they saw that the Broadway show Whoopi was coming to town. It was either the Emerson or their Colonial Theater, and the bakery asked the producers if they could throw out whoopie pies during intermission. I assume they were wrapped up. They weren't just frisbeeing them out into the crowd, but I could be wrong. Those were different times. And of course, they were a hit. I mean, who doesn't want a snack in intermission? So then they became known as whoopie pies. But then there was some legal copyright trouble because they didn't want the whoopee. So whoopee for the show was WHOOPEE exclamation point. And that was originally how they were spelled for the cakes. It was actually written on the brick face of the bakery. I think I saw it on the internet. I don't know if you can still see it in the city, but eventually they had to change it to IE because of copyright infringement. So that's why we call them whoopie pies. And that was in 1929. But I'm sure that they predated that time. Donuts. It's hard to say exactly who brought donuts because every European group has some form of donut, but the Germans do have jelly donuts that are practically exactly the same as what we have. But the round rings of dough are definitely American-style donuts. The Portuguese brought a whole bunch of things here. They were actually one of the earliest immigrants, and we don't talk about them very much, but we should. They came for whaling and fishing. They also came to work in the textile mills during the Industrial Revolution. And they, of course, brought all kinds of seafood, soups and chowders, Portuguese sweet rolls, and all types of breads. You can see a lot of their influence along the coast, Provincetown and along like southern Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut. I believe they also were the originators of panucci. Does anybody know what panucci is? Yeah. It's a brown sugar fudge, yes, and it predates chocolate fudge by quite a bit. I have not worked it all out yet, and this is a working hypothesis. This has not been proven, but I'm going to tell you just a few things about it, which is that, sugar has, sugar has been around for a long time, and the way that it traveled through Europe was mostly through the southern part of Europe because of the Arab invasion of that part of the world. And so a lot of the islands in the Mediterranean ended up growing sugarcane and learning how to use sugar. The British, sugar was more for the royalty than it was for the common person. They didn't have a lot of experience with cooking with sugar. So it seemed unlikely to me that the British would have started making fudge, but I didn't know. So I started kind of looking into this. Panucci is not an English word, just the way it's spelled. It had to come from somewhere. So panucci is popular in two places, New England and in Hawaii, which could not be further from each other. And I was like, what do these places have in common? What they have in common is Portuguese, because the sugar plantation owners in Hawaii were looking for workers who knew how to work sugarcane, who were good workers, and they actively recruited from the Azores, which were a Portuguese island in the Atlantic, which is coincidentally where the vast majority of Portuguese immigrants came from, those islands, not from mainland Portugal. So I was like, it's got to be Portuguese. So I tried to I contacted some experts on Portuguese cooking, and a lovely woman in California who wrote a Portuguese cookbook. She sent me a clipping of a recipe for essentially caramels. And she said, I really think there's something to this. So she sent me the recipe, I made it, and it was hard caramel. But it was made, from it had a dark brown sugar. It was made using white sugar that you caramelized. But I thought, well, if I use brown sugar here instead, and if I stir it instead of letting it cool like you would for fudge, you get panucci. So I don't know if there's a correlation there, but when I had the good fortune to get to go to the Azores last year on a girls' trip, because one of my friends lives in Spain, and that was like the exact halfway point. Like, if anybody sees anything that looks like fudge at the farmer's market, you have to tell me. And they did, and they found them, and they were like a little grainier than the panucci that you would get, but it was not hard. It was like a fudge. I was like, I really think that it's some adaptation of that. So, anyways, that's my position on that. How much time do we have? Oh, okay, good. I'm ethnically Italian on my father's side, so I always like to insert a little bit of Italian influence in a couple of things. So, you know, I might stick some amaretti cookies and peach ice cream. So that's kind of like your New England / Italian fusion there. There's an Italian ice recipe made with watermelon and lemon because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to represent. So I was like, oh, let's try them together. And it's really good. Yeah, so, you know, the book has a lot of traditional recipes, but it also has a lot of like fusion recipes and integrating different flavors from like the global influences of our community. So I like to think that it sort of represents New England today. And then we'll see in 100 years what New England food looks like. I think there's going to be a lot more flan. I made a pumpkin flan that's delicious. I love it. Yeah. And so we could do it just I'm going to run through a couple more recipes if you don't mind that had their origins here, and then I'll open it up to questions and you tell me what you want to hear. Maybe I'll switch over the, when I do Q&A, will you help me switch over the, I'm going to put the brunch photos up, yeah, tempt you. Okay, so let's see, we did pumpkin pie, we did Indian pudding, Joe Frogger's, panucci, Boston cream pie. I'm kind of trying to go in order sort of chronologically. 1855, we're now in the 1850s. Boston cream pie was originally made at the Parker House Hotel, which is the same place that the Parker House rolls originated. They still make it today. You can find the recipe on the Omni Parker House now, on the Omni website. I was going to just flat out, you know, print that recipe with an attribution and say this is the original, but it uses a full dozen eggs. I was like, can't do it. It's like, eggs are expensive. So I remade it. They also use fondant instead of regular chocolate, which I am not doing. So I made my own version of it. It's very similar, but it does have a ganache on top. It has the vanilla, you know, cream center and a nice sponge, but it uses half a dozen eggs, not a dozen eggs. It's still delicious. And one thing I will say is that to improve any Boston cream pie, when you cut the cake, because you're making one cake, splitting it, the open side of the cake, if you brush that with Bailey's Irish Cream, or Kahlua, or Frangelico, you know, Amaretto, and then put it all together, it's way better. Just a little tip, insider tip. Fig Newtons, yes, invented. Well, they weren't invented in Newton, but they were named after the town of Newton. And the story behind that is that there was a F.A. Kennedy Steam Bakery in Cambridgeport, and they would make cookies that they would name after neighborhoods in and around Boston. And I was trying to find, I have to do more research on this, but I was trying to find what were the other cookies, like what were they named? And I think there was a Beacon Hill one, and there might have been a Shrewsbury. But I wasn't able to actually find the actual cookie. The survivor is the Fig Newton, which was based off of the British fig roll. And let me tell you, like, making Fig Newtons is a project. I did put a recipe in here, and it's delicious, and it gives you the ability to make the filling out of whatever you want. I did a fresh fig and raspberry version. It was very delicious. But it's a project. The dough is really soft, the filling is really sticky, and trying to get everything together and look perfect, it's a project. So make it once for fun, and then never do it again. And I think that's why, you know, Fig Newtons are delicious, and they're a pain to make. So, you know, having this patented extrusion machine that James Henry Mitchell made in 1891, this is my cheat sheet, is what, you know, sort of enabled the, you know, keeping everything consistent and beautiful, and just made it easy and accessible. So it's still one of the most popular cookies ever. And then, I just might mention, that the holidays are coming up. And some of my favorite holiday dishes, to make, besides, obviously pumpkin pie is always amazing. Apple pie, you cannot ever go wrong. I make a maple walnut pie instead of a pecan pie because, walnuts are just a little more prevalent around here. The caramel apple tarts on the cover of New England Desserts are like a nice crostata or galette. So if you don't have enough apples for a whole pie, or it's just the two of you, you can just make a small one and then just drizzle it with caramel sauce, and it's delicious. Two of my favorite cheesecakes to make, which I love to make for the holidays just because you can make them ahead of time and they have to chill, so you pretty much have to make them ahead of time and then you don't have to worry about it. Maple cheesecake, any cheesecake recipe that you have that you love, just substitute the sugar for maple sugar. And it is delicious. Just make sure that you either grind the sugar in your food processor so it's nice and fine, or you buy the finely ground stuff so that it dissolves faster, because a lot of times maple sugar can be very coarse. But it's very, very delicious. And a cranberry swirl cheesecake, which I just make like a sweetened cranberry sauce, like not as some tartness to cut through the richness of the cheesecake, and then swirl it in the top. It's very nice. I always like pumpkin whoopie pies. We're in summer now, so you're not going to see this yet, but there's also maple caramel corn, which is delicious for snacking, and all the fudges. So let's go to Q&A, and we'll switch to brunch. So think about your questions. I'll be right back. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Yeah? Okay. You're first.
So, thank you. You've whetted my appetite.
Oh, good.
And I'm curious if you've ever heard of a pie that I still have the recipe for. I got it about 60 years ago from either Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket. I don't remember which place I was at. The name of the restaurant was the Music Box Restaurant, in case anybody's ever heard of it. The pie was called Kalman Pie, Kalman. Very simple recipe. Egg whites, Ritz crackers, and sugar.
Really?
So, does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah.
Not to me, but it looks like others have heard of it.
It's almost like making meringues.
Yeah.
And then crunched up Ritz crackers.
Oh, so the crackers are not in the crust. The crackers are in the pie filling.
Pie and a little bit of sugar. It's fascinating. And salt. It's probably a little salt.
Yeah. So Coleman pie. Is anybody?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I've never heard of it by any other name or seen it anyplace else.
Interesting.
But I still make it occasionally, and it's fabulous.
I wonder if that's like a specific island thing, like maybe like the Nantucketians, I don't know, people from Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard are holding out on us with their like special secret dessert recipes. Did you have something?
Well, actually, I encountered that same type recipe in eastern Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating. And was it called Coleman?
No, it was just called Ritz Cracker Tort.
Interesting. All right. Well, I have some investigation to do after this. Yeah.
And I had it at the Woodbine restaurant in Sunapee or New London, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I added dates.
Oh.
And they served it with whipped cream.
Oh my goodness, that sounds really
It was their
good.
specialty.
All right.
Sounds like it should be a Depression era.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Put what you have in there. Get your Ritz crackers and your eggs, and yeah, fascinating. Thank you. Yes.
Do you have a recipe for potato donuts?
Potato donuts. I don't have a recipe for that. I have a recipe for potato lefse, which are crepes, Norwegian potato crepes. But no. But I have heard of potato donuts.
They're a thing in Maine.
Maine, yeah, makes sense.
Or donut.
Oh.
And they're absolutely incredible.
Are
And I
they?
have looked for a recipe, and I used to live up there, but I
Yeah.
don't drive up there to buy donuts.
Were they light, like the yeast leavened ones, or were they more like cakey donuts?
They're cakey, they're not fried, they're baked.
They're baked.
Yeah,
Do they have a glaze or are they plain?
they do everything.
They.
Everything.
And what part of Maine?
All over.
Really? I was
Yeah,
just
in
there.
Portland, but I think the closest place is around Skowhegan.
Okay.
And they've opened up quite a few places.
All right.
They're awfully good.
I will be trying that as soon as possible. Thank you. Yes.
Are hermits a New England dessert or New England cookie hermits?
That is my understanding, that they are like, you're sort of a British, using the spices and the dried fruits. So I'm not 100% sure, but I would say I am like 95% sure. Definitely it's something that is still made very often in this region. And it's one of the recipes I love in a situation like this, where I don't have time to bake that day. Because they, you seal them and they just get better with age. And I feel like anything with molasses and spices is like that. It's just gonna get, more moist, more flavorful as the spices bloom. So these have been sitting since Saturday when I made them. I had a 9-hour shift yesterday at the cheese shop. And then today I was like, ooh, these are delicious. Yes.
What is the secret to making good scones instead of hockey pucks? Is there some technique that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Minimum working, like anything. I do think that it's the recipe, like you have to be careful how much liquid you put in there. Because the more liquid you put in there, like the tougher they can get. But a lot of times it's just finding the recipe that has the right ratio of ingredients. I'll have to talk to me after. I'll take a look at, I have a couple of scone recipes, and if you know yours or, one that didn't work for you off the top of your head, we can look at the ratios. Yeah. Yeah, you don't? I don't either. People ask me, how did you make that recipe? And it's been like 2 years, even though like my brunch book just came out, it's been around for a lot longer than that, and I don't remember everything. I have to go back and look. Yeah.
You sound like you travel for food a lot. If you were in this area or in the Waltham area and you weren't making your own desserts, where would you send people to go? Like, I know there's all the lists out there, but I mean, if you have this specialty place that you're like, oh, they do this really well.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah, inside scoop.
Inside scoop. Well, my favorite donuts on the Cape are hole-in-one or the hole, because they have like really big like nooks and crannies, and the glaze just kind of like it freezes mid-drip. I don't know, it doesn't like absorb into the, how Dunkin' Donuts used to have good donuts, but their donuts are terrible now. In my opinion, my humble opinion. Oh, sorry, you have donut holes. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Actually, those looked really good, were they not?
Oh, they're store-bought, don't worry about it.
They looked way better than Dunkin' Donuts. Other things. The Boston Public Market has like a popover stand that's really good. If you ever get a chance to go to the Boston Public Market, you've been there? Yeah, they have a little popover stand. They also have donuts there, Union Square Donuts. And they have their market stalls like from Stillman's Farm, and some of the other ones have like a lot of those heirloom apples that we were talking about, like interesting fruit and stuff. For Indian pudding, I don't even know who makes it anymore because, we the Colonial Inn does. Oh, okay, that's a good tip. Of course, Durgan Park is no longer, and Hearth and Cattle used to have it, but I don't feel like those are all closed. Wayside Inn, oh yeah, they must,
It's not like at the Century House, and
Oh, I haven't been. Century House in Peabody?
114.
Okay. So Colonial Inn, maybe Wayside Inn, and maybe, yeah. I'll keep thinking on that. Yes?
A comment and a very basic question, but
Yeah.
I was just at Linfield Market Street, and there's a Union Square Donuts there as well.
Ah.
Yeah, and it caught our eye. We're actually, at Christmas time, we're gonna bring our daughter and son-in-law
Oh,
with donuts, because it would be fun.
yes.
And my very basic question is, I'm thinking about getting some of those scoops that you can use for cookie dough,
Yes.
and I'm wondering, like, if there's a favorite size you have, or if there are different sizes that are good for different kinds of cookies.
Yes, I have 3 sizes, and they came in a set. There was, let me see, I think it was a ½ ounce, an ounce, and an ounce and a half. And so the small one is like a tablespoon, or maybe it's either half a tablespoon. I forget what the conversion is. It's either, let's see, there's 8 tablespoons in a stick of butter, and that's 4 ounces. So that means a tablespoon's ½ ounce. Okay, so the ½ ounce is the tablespoon size, and what do I use for that? Mini muffins. The next one up is probably what I use most, like that would be the 1 ounce one, just for, regular cookies. It's like the perfect size for ginger snaps, and but I use the bigger one for whoopie pies, like the regular size whoopie pies, and other things too. Like the hermit recipe actually came from Wright's Dairy Farm in Rhode Island, which has like a cult following for the hermits. And I was trying to follow their recipe, and they would basically make like a long smear. And so I just did like multiple, cookie scoops of dough, and then just smoothed the top. And so I used one of them for that. I don't even know. I do find they have different good uses, and if you bake a lot, it's worth having all 3. If not, you can totally do without it, but it does help with speed. Yeah. Yes. Yes, you.
I have my mother-in-law's recipe for chocolate sauce,
Yeah.
and people have been known to eat it right out the pan.
Oh, I can believe it. Well, how much can you share with us about this chocolate sauce?
I'm very willing to give you the recipe. It's really good, and it was funny because my son gave the recipe to a wife of one of his friends, and she made it, and it didn't come out very good. And this woman is like homemaker extraordinaire. So my son said to her, "Well, did you cook it in a double boiler?" And she said to him, "What's a double boiler?" So honest to God, I have 5 double boilers, and when I leave this earth, she's getting all of them.
Wow. You have a Pyrex double
Oh, I
boiler?
got 3 or 4 Pyrex double boilers.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as a Pyrex double boiler.
I bought them at garage sales.
Really?
Yeah, I have Pyrex coffee pots, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think I'm the only person in the world who
No.
But I serve it with this ice cream that we got the recipe when we were in South Africa, and the woman who cooked it was a friend of our host's from Simonstown, which is on the South Shore
Okay.
of South Africa, and it only has 5 ingredients in it. You take egg whites and you whip them stiff with some salt. You take a pint of heavy cream. I find it comes out better with heavy cream than whipping cream, and you add that in and you beat that again, and then you add 1 can of condensed milk, and you beat it again, and then you add vanilla, and you beat it. That's it.
Wow.
So I have a lot of egg yolks, so whenever I make it, I make scratch custard with the egg.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So you don't need to use an ice cream machine for that? It just,
No,
it holds the air
anything.
from the
I
egg
don't
whites?
have Pyrex dishes,
Yeah.
because then the flavor is not going into a pan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I put it in the Pyrex dish and just put it in a dish, and you put it in the slice, that's it, you don't have to whip it or anything.
Wow. That sounds amazing. That's like a great way to not have to buy an ice cream machine. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
I have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
You're talking about a double boiler, okay? Years ago, 50 years ago, I took a cooking class at the Van Farmer School of Cooking on Newbury Street. Which
Yeah.
at that time was the longest running cooking school in the country.
Yes.
And we used recipes from the Fanny Farmer cookbook. And we did one once a week, at night. And they used a double boiler. And I could never understand what the point of that was.
Yeah, it's really good for things like chocolate that could separate.
It saves it from getting crystallized.
Yeah, it sort of helps keep the heat even because it's the steam. And so you bring the water in the bottom to a boil. It produces steam to heat what's in the bottom, so you don't get hot spots, and sort of a gentler way to cook things. Sometimes people use it for candy making too. Anybody else use double boiler for other things? What do you use it for? Like hollandaises and stuff like that?
Heat everything with it.
Oh, it's a good idea.
Never
Separate or burn.
doesn't get over 5 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess we used it, I remember using it a lot, and I really didn't get the whole thing, but apparently these things don't even exist anymore, is that what you're saying?
No, they exist. I mean, the one I have is from my grandmother, and it's metal. I tend to see them as metal pots more than Pyrex, but that's kind of cool. I don't think we use them quite as much, probably because of the microwave is my guess. Like I tend to melt chocolate, like I'll either so I have a tiny double boiler, but what I usually do when I'm melting chocolate is just take a little pan and put a bowl on top, metal bowl on top, just to improvise it. But you can also do some of that like gentle reheating in the microwave and stir. So I don't know, it has kind of fallen out of fashion, but I don't know if that's because people aren't cooking as much anymore or what.
But it's good to heat, if you reheating squash or something like that.
Yeah.
The boil is good, excuse me, because it doesn't catch on the pan.
Like it doesn't stick?
It doesn't stick and burn.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, so I don't know if everybody heard that, but if you're reheating squash for Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving, if you do it in a double boiler, you don't have to worry about the squash sticking and burning on the pot. Good tip. Good tip. Yeah.
I'm curious whether you've used the new silicone muffin tins, not tin.
Yeah. I have not used the muffin tins. I've used some other silicone items, but not that particular one.
So I bought one, my muffin tins were really old.
Yeah.
And so I bought one and I thought, well, I'll try it. And I've loved it. I don't have to use paper cups in it because it comes out so easily.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I've really loved it.
So you recommend that?
Yeah, and I tend not to buy single-use plastic. I avoid the use of plastic.
Yeah.
It's not really plastic, but it's not natural. But
Yeah.
I loved it.
But it's worked really
I
well.
loved it.
All right. Holiday gift ideas, people. Silicone muffin tins. I'll get right to you, but I don't think that you've asked one yet. Is that right?
Practical question.
Yeah.
What type of fat do you use in pie crust?
I tend to use all butter, but I have used lard. Lard makes amazing crust. I have used shortening. Shortening also makes amazing crust, but I just prefer a butter flavor, so I tend to use all butter. But everybody should do what they like.
For both sweet and savory?
Yes, I do. But my feeling is use what you like. But I do love pie. Pie is one of my favorite things to make. So if you have any pie questions or anything pie related, I'm happy to.
So then, how do you get the crust to not fall apart?
Yeah. So for me, the secret is, you see a lot. I've made pies a lot of different ways. You can do them by hand, you can do them in the food processor, you can do them in the mixer, you can use one of those handheld pastry blenders. I like to get the butter pretty small, but still in pieces that you can see. And then minimal amount of, I say minimal amount of liquid, but you want to make sure that you have enough liquid that it holds together when you squeeze it in your hand. But not too much, because if you put too much in, then it does get tough. When I gather it together, I have a tendency, they call it frissage in French, but basically I want to make sure I'm building a few layers. So when I'm gathering it together, sometimes I'll do it on a piece of wax paper, so I don't have to worry about it sticking to my hands. You can either squish it over itself a couple of times, or you can cut it in half and stack it. That way, and if you just do that a couple of times and make sure the edges are, and then put it in the fridge for a half hour, I usually divide it into 2 discs, flat, and put it in the fridge for like 20 minutes to a half hour, just enough so that it relaxes the gluten. And then, but you can still roll it out, because if it gets too stiff, it just makes it hard to roll out. And then I use ice water as the liquid, keep it very cold. What else do I do? And then,
And do you use a cover on your rolling pin, like a,
No, I just add extra flour as I need it. Yeah, and I have a bench scraper. Everybody know what a bench scraper is? Oh, yeah, baker's here. Yes, I love my bench scraper. And just kind of like drape it over the, because it will, sometimes it does stick to the counter, but here's the other thing. Oh, I have another tip. People say lightly flour. I tend to have a lot of flour on my counter because I don't want the pie crust to stick at all. Because if it sticks at all, when you're rolling it, it's a lot of tension. I like when you roll it and it kind of just, it moves a little bit as you go. And I go from the middle out. I don't go back and forth like this, because that just builds up the gluten.
you do it right in the counter?
Right on the counter. But if you have better luck between sheets of parchment paper, that works too.
Good luck rolling it out, right?
Oh yeah, it could be the recipe. Like it's not always the baker, but it does take practice. But make as many pies as it takes till you get it right. That's my advice.
I usually make 1 or 2 a year.
Oh, that is the problem, because you don't have like the opportunity to like get better at it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
My bottom crust is always soggy, and
Yes.
I was wondering if you have any hints for that.
Yeah. So usually the bottom crust gets soggy. For me, either not quite enough thickener in the filling, which sometimes when you have really fresh fruit, it's super juicy. And sometimes the recipe does not call for quite enough thickener. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're buying fruit fresh, you might need a little extra thickener, and that's not something that comes up very often. The other thing is I don't add the sugar in my filling until right before I put it in the pie crust. If you chop your fruit and you add the sugar and it sits for like 20 minutes, an hour, it's pulling the juice out of the fruit. And you get like all this extra juice with nowhere to go. So I usually measure out my sugar and put it in a little bowl, like sitting right on top of the fruit. So I don't forget to put it in, which I've done. And then I just, once I already have the bottom pie crust in the pie plate, then when I put the fruit in, put the other one. Once I've had the top also rolled out, so I have my crust in the bottom, I've rolled out my top crust, I'm ready to, and I put the fruit in and put the crust on top.
And I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Have you ever used tapioca as a thickener for fruit pie?
Yes, yeah, I think it's good. I tend to use it with things that have berries in them, just because, well, initially I started using like the pearl tapioca, and because it has a texture, it has like a meaty texture, it melds into a berry pie more. But now that they have the fine tapioca, I think it's just a powder, that also works well. Yeah. Yes?
I have,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I have a marble rolling pin and
Yeah.
a wood one.
Yeah.
And is one preferable to the other for pie making? Is there
Yeah.
a different one that you recommend?
I mean, the marble one will be nice and cold.
Yeah.
That's probably ideal. I don't have marble one, I use a wooden French rolling pin. The regular wooden rolling pins are great because they have weight. And the marble one will have a lot of weight too, so it's less work. I like the French rolling pins have like a curved edge, which for me I like because you can use where it curves to get, roll out from the center to get more of a round. You can just kind of apply it as needed to take something that's square or weirdly shaped and make it rounder, you know what I mean? So I find that handy. But I think anything that you like, that's comfortable for you will work well. Yeah. And I'm sorry, now you.
The other recipe that I have is Jordan Marsh blueberry pie.
That is in my brunch cookbook. Did you get that like originally from the store?
Going from the fact that our oldest son is 52.
Yeah.
He was in the first grade, you know, they would have presents for mothers that they would make it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the school staff and some of the mothers would submitted their recipes and they would run off on a mimeograph machine down into the book. And so that's where I got the recipe from now. Who knows how they managed to get it, but I use, I have an oversized cookie, cupcake tin, muffin tin.
Yeah.
And I always butter it, I never use cups. Excuse me. And I butter it. And the secret is I butter the whole top of the pan because the muffins overflow and you don't want them to stick. So I use both.
That is
And out
smart.
of that whole entire recipe, I get 12 gigantic muffins.
Oh, sounds amazing. Yeah, that is a great muffin recipe.
Put extra blueberries in too. Keep going to all that trouble.
That's right.
Blueberries.
Excellent. Yes.
Do you have a favorite combination of apples that you put in an apple pie?
Oh, that's such a great question. Here's the problem, and I think maybe a lot of people have it. When I go apple picking, I just throw all the apples together and I never know what they were. So I will say, I always mix apple varieties. I tend to not use just one because I like to have like complementary or just, you know, more than one flavor note. I feel like that makes a more flavorful pie. One of my favorite pie apples, and I always forget the name of it every time. I don't know why. But, you know, Rhode Island Greening and Granny Smith's make great pies. You can make a Macintosh, and Macintosh cooks very saucy. But if you combine it with Cortland's, you can do that. But you do risk a soggy crust on that, unless you make sure you're on top of the thickener. I would just say I don't have a favorite. If I were to do something sweet apple, I would mix it with a tart apple. That's what I would do. I love Stamen wine sap apples. I love Newtown Pippin apples. And I keep hoping that other one that I love is going to come into my mind. And it's not. It's just not. I'll get back to you. Yes.
Is it the Northern Spry?
Yes. Yes.
I went to I was out with girlfriends and we happened upon this farm and
Northern Spy.
unbelievable pies.
Northern Spy. Thank you.
And it was an all Northern Spy
Yes,
apple pie.
Northern Spy.
It was the most delicious pie I think I ever had.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I've been noticing recently that people are blind baking their pumpkin pie crust, and I never did that before. Do you?
You don't have to.
No, I never did.
I mean, you can, but you don't have to.
It's a way for the crust to overcook sometimes.
Yeah, that it will help prevent that if that's an issue.
And do you ever brush the crust with egg white to prevent sogginess?
I have heard that that's a good tip. I don't typically need to do that, but I have heard that works. So did you hear that? Some people brush the crust with egg white, and that can help prevent sogginess. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Yes.
I brush mine with milk.
With milk?
Sugar, the crust.
Yeah. Do you mean the The bottom before you fill it? The top, okay, yes. Yes, that's nice. Like we're doing an egg wash on top. That's very nice. Well, I think we might be out of time. Is that right, Graham?
I think we're just about at.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for our lovely audience.